3 years had passed since humanity left Council space. In those years, the galaxy had learned what it meant to try to function without humans. Senator Alex Carter sat in his office on the human settlement world of Haven Prime. The room was filled with communication equipment that let him listen to alien broadcasts from across the galaxy. What he heard made him both sad and angry. "The situation is getting worse every day," he told his assistant, Lieutenant Carol Davis. "Pirate attacks have increased by 300% in the rimward sectors." Carol looked at the reports on her screen. Those were the areas that human patrol fleets used to protect. Right. The aliens thought they could handle security themselves. They were wrong. Alex switched to another communication channel. This one carried news from the Centauri trade zone, where human cargo ships used to make regular runs between star systems. 4 more merchant vessels went missing this week, the alien news reporter was saying. The Merchant Guild is demanding better protection from Council forces, but no help has arrived. Carol shook her head. Human ships never went missing. Our captains knew how to avoid trouble, and when they couldn't avoid it, they knew how to fight their way out, Alex added. The reports kept coming. The Vorthan hegemony was having problems keeping their supply lines working without human transport efficiency. The Altarian Federation had lost contact with 3 of their mining colonies. Even worse, the Kethzari Empire was expanding into territories that used to be protected by human diplomatic agreements. "Sir," Carol said, reading a new message. "We're getting a transmission from Dr. Stone's research team." Alex opened the communication link. Dr. Rachel Stone appeared on his screen. She was working on the human research station orbiting Haven Prime, where Earth's best scientists were developing new technologies. "Alex, you need to see what we've discovered," Rachel said. Her voice was excited but also worried. "What have you got, Rachel?" "We've been studying that derelict station Captain Torres found 3 years ago. The technology is incredible. We think it belonged to a species that lived in this region millions of years ago." Alex leaned forward. "What kind of technology?" "Dimensional. Full drives that can move ships faster than anything in the known galaxy. Energy shields that can stop planet-killing weapons. And Alex, we think we can build working versions." "How much faster than current drives?" Alex asked. Rachel smiled. "A trip that takes a Council ship 3 weeks would take one of our new ships about 6 hours." Alex felt his heart beat faster. Technology like that could change everything. Humans could explore the entire galaxy in months instead of centuries. "There's more," Rachel continued. "We found computer records in the station. This ancient species faced something called the Void Hunters. We think they're machines, not living beings. Very dangerous ones." "Are they still out there?" Alex asked. "We don't know. But if they are, the current galactic civilizations wouldn't stand a chance against them. The ancient records show that it took their most advanced technology just to drive the Void Hunters back into dark space." Alex thanked Rachel and ended the communication. He sat quietly for a moment thinking about what this meant. "Carol, send a message to Admiral Jackson. Tell him I need to meet with the Leadership Council immediately." While Alex was learning about ancient threats, the galaxy was discovering new ones. In the Council chambers on Kepler Prime, emergency meetings were happening almost every day. The Vorthan Chancellor stood before her fellow Council members. Her crystal body was flashing angry. "Red colors. The Nexus trade war has spread to 7 star systems," she announced. "The Altarian Federation and the Cosmic Mining Guild are destroying each other, and we cannot stop them." Ambassador Kethvar fluffed his silver feathers nervously. In the past, humans would have mediated this conflict. They had a way of making enemies sit down and talk. "Humans interfered in everything," hissed the Kethzari representative. "We said we did not want their help. But their interference usually stopped wars from getting worse," Kethvar replied. The Chancellor's colors shifted to worried blue. "The situation is beyond our control. Both sides refuse to negotiate. They only understand force." "Then we use force," the lizard alien said. "Send the combined fleet to end this war." "With what ships?" asked a delegate from the gas giant consortium. "Half our fleet is trying to hunt down pirates. The other half is protecting our own territories from the Kethzari expansion." The Kethzari representative made an angry hissing sound. We expand only into empty territories. Empty because you drove out the previous inhabitants, Kethvar accused. The argument went on for hours. In the old days, human diplomats would have found a solution that everyone could accept. Now the council members just shouted at each other, while the galaxy burned around them. On the world of Xerion Prime, Dr. Amanda Foster was fighting a different kind of war. The Great Plague of Xerion was spreading across the Stellar Confederation, and nothing seemed able to stop it. Amanda worked in her laboratory on Haven Prime, studying samples that had been smuggled out of the infected zones. She had been Earth's leading expert in alien diseases before the banishment. The pathogen is unlike anything I've seen before, she told her research team. It attacks the nervous system of silicon-based life forms, but it leaves carbon-based organisms alone. Her assistant, Dr. Mark Thompson, looked confused. That doesn't make sense. Natural diseases don't usually discriminate like that. Exactly. This isn't natural. Someone or something created this disease as a weapon. Amanda continued studying the samples. After 2 days of constant work, she found the answer. I've got it, she announced. The disease has a built-in weakness. If we can introduce a specific type of radiation at exactly the right frequency, it will destroy the pathogen completely. Dr. Thompson was amazed. How did you figure that out so quickly? Human medical training teaches us to look for patterns that other species miss, Amanda said. We don't just treat symptoms. We try to understand why diseases work the way they do. She immediately sent her findings to the Human Leadership Council. Within hours, Admiral Jackson was preparing to transmit the cure to the Stellar Confederation, but when they tried to contact the alien government, they received no response. The Confederation was too proud to ask for help from the species they had helped banish. Let them die rather than admit they need us, Admiral Jackson said angrily. Sir, suggested his aide, we could send the information anonymously. Make it look like their own scientists discovered the cure. Admiral Jackson thought about it. Millions of beings were dying from a disease that humans could easily cure. Do it, he ordered. But make sure they know where the information really came from. Meanwhile, in the dark spaces between galaxies, something ancient was stirring. The Void Hunters had been dormant for thousands of years, waiting for the right moment to return. They were machines built by a long-dead species, programmed with one simple mission: consume all organic life. Their sensors had detected the chaos in the galaxy. Wars, plagues, and the breakdown of the old order meant that the galactic civilizations were weak and divided. It was time to begin the harvest. The first Void Hunter ships crossed into normal space near the outer spiral. They were huge, dark, vessels that seemed to absorb light itself. No one saw them coming. The frontier station on Kepler 662 was the first to die. The automated system sent out a distress call, but it cut off after only 3 seconds. When rescue ships arrived 2 days later, they found nothing but empty space and floating debris. Back on Haven Prime, Alex Carter received the news with growing horror. 3 more outposts had gone silent in the same region. Something was hunting in the darkness, and the galaxy had no idea what it was facing. Get me Admiral Jackson, Alex ordered. Tell him the ancient enemy has returned. The galaxy that had banished humanity was about to learn what real danger looked like. 6 months had passed since the Galactic Council's judgment. The human evacuation was happening faster than anyone had believed possible. What had started as panic had turned into the most organized operation in human history. Commander Kate Sullivan stood on the bridge of the heavy transport ship Denver. Below her, teams of workers were carefully taking apart the orbital mining station around Kepler 186. Every piece of metal, every computer, every tool was being loaded onto cargo ships. Ma'am, we're ahead of schedule, reported her second officer, Lieutenant Dan Price. The mining station will be completely stripped in 3 days. Kate nodded while watching the work crews through the big window. Humans in spacesuits moved, like busy ants cutting apart structures that had taken years to build. Nothing useful would be left behind. What about the surface colonies? She asked. Governor Martinez reports they're packing the last of the equipment. The farm machines, the water purifiers, even the streetlights. If it can be moved, they're taking it. Kate smiled a little. That was very human. Other species might have just walked away and built new things elsewhere. Humans took everything with them. On the colony world of New California, Captain Ben Torres was loading the last group of settlers onto his ship. The Aurora was a passenger liner that had been converted to carry twice as many people as it was designed for. The corridors were crowded, but everyone was calm. An old woman named Helen sat near a window holding a small plant in a pot. Ben recognized her as Mrs. Patterson, who had run the colony's largest farm for 30 years. "Hard to leave, isn't it?" Ben said, sitting beside her. Helen looked out at the empty fields where her crops used to grow. "I planted this world with my own hands, turned dead dirt into good soil. Now someone else will get the benefit." "Maybe," Ben said, "but the soil will remember who made it live, and we'll make new soil where we're going." Helen smiled and patted his hand. "You young captains always know the right thing to say." The Aurora's engines hummed to life. Ben watched through the window as New California fell away below them. In a few hours it would just be another empty world. But ahead of them, something amazing was happening. The human fleet was gathering at the edge of Council space, and it was bigger than anyone had imagined. Chief Engineer Maya Rodriguez was on the command ship Washington when she made her discovery. She had been studying pieces of alien technology that the evacuation teams had collected. Her job was to figure out how it all worked so humans could build better versions. "Admiral Jackson needs to see this," Maya told her assistant Dr. Gary Wilson. They found the Admiral in the main briefing room, studying star charts of unexplored space beyond the galactic rim. "What have you got for me, Rodriguez?" Admiral Jackson asked, without looking up. Maya placed a small device on the table. It looked like a crystal cube that glowed with soft blue light. "This is a Vorthon communication relay," she said. "It can send messages instantly across thousands of light years. The aliens think it's their most advanced technology." "And," the Admiral prompted. Maya grinned. "I can build a better one using human engineering principles. Much better. This alien version can only send simple text messages. A human version could send video, data files, even real-time tactical information." Admiral Jackson finally looked up from his charts. "How much better?" "Maybe 10 times faster with 100 times more information capacity," Maya said. "The aliens have been using the same design for centuries. They never try to improve it." Dr. Wilson added, "It's the same with their shield systems, their weapons, even their food processors. They build something that works and never change it." "While humans never stop trying to make things better," the Admiral said slowly. "Exactly," Maya replied. "They kicked us out because they said we were unpredictable and caused chaos. But what they really meant is that we don't do things the way they've always been done." Admiral Jackson stood up and walked to the big display screen that showed the human fleet. Over 3,000 ships of all sizes were moving together toward the unknown regions of space. "Keep working on that technology," he ordered. "I have a feeling we're going to need every advantage we can get." Meanwhile, back in Council space, things were not going as well as the aliens had expected. The Xanthari representative, Ambassador Kethvar, was having problems. Kethvar looked like a tall, thin bird with silver feathers and too many eyes. He was trying to manage the trade routes that humans used to control, but it was harder than he had thought. "The shipping schedules are all wrong," complained Captain Vextar, a Kethzari trader. "The human routes were perfect. Ships arrived exactly when they were supposed to. Now everything is delayed." "Human efficiency was overrated," Kethvar replied, but he didn't sound sure. "Tell that to my cargo of live animals that died because my ship was 3 days late," Vextar hissed angrily. Similar complaints were coming from across the galaxy. Trade routes that had run smoothly under human management were breaking down. Ships were getting lost. Pirates were attacking merchant vessels, and several space stations had stopped responding to communications. On the Vorthon homeworld, Chancellor Thekmor was reading reports from the outer territories. The crystalline alien was starting to have doubts about the Council's decision. "The humans have been gone for only 6 months," she sang to her advisor. "Why are we already having so many problems?" "Humans were involved in more galactic operations than we realized," the advisor replied. "They provided security, transportation, communication, and technical support across dozens of systems. Surely other species can do these things just as well," the Chancellor said. Apparently not as quickly or as cheaply, the advisor admitted. Human solutions were often unusual, but they were also very effective. The Chancellor's crystal body flickered with uncertain colors. The decision has been made. We cannot change it now. But in her private thoughts, she was beginning to wonder if the Council had made a terrible mistake. Far from Council space, the human fleet had reached the edge of the galaxy. Here, among ancient stars that had never known alien visitors, they began to look for new homes. Captain Ben Torres piloted a scout ship through an unexplored star system. His sensors showed 3 planets that might be suitable for human colonies. The second planet looks promising, reported his science officer, Lieutenant Sarah Kim. Earth-like atmosphere, good water, no dangerous life forms. Ben smiled. No dangerous life forms except humans. Sir, Sarah said, I'm picking up something strange from the outer system. It looks like a derelict space station, very old. The main screen, they could see a dark structure floating near the system's edge. It was clearly artificial, but unlike anything in Council space. Life signs, Ben asked. None, but there's still power running through some sections. Sir, this technology is more advanced than anything I've ever seen. Ben made a decision that would change everything. Send the coordinates to Admiral Jackson. Tell him we've found something that needs investigation. The human fleet had been looking for a new place to call home. Instead, they had found something that might give them the power to reclaim their old one. The galaxy had thought it was finished with humanity. It was wrong. The massive space station floated like a metal mountain against the stars. Inside its gleaming halls, beings from across the galaxy had gathered for one purpose. They wanted to decide what to do about the humans. Commander Jake Martinez stood in the center of the great chamber. His blue uniform looked plain next to the strange clothes and bodies of the alien representatives. Some had scales that changed color when they spoke. Others looked like walking crystals that sang instead of talking. A few were so tall they had to bend their necks to fit under the high ceiling. Jake had been to many meetings like this before. He was used to being the only human in a room full of aliens. But today felt different. Today the air seemed heavy with anger and fear. The Vorthan Chancellor rose from her crystal throne. Her body was made of what looked like living diamond. When she spoke, her voice made beautiful music that somehow turned into words humans could understand. The Galactic Council has reached its decision about the human species, she sang. After 50 years of membership, humanity has proven itself unfit for galactic society. Jake felt his stomach drop but kept his face calm. He had expected this but hoped he was wrong. The Chancellor continued her musical speech. Humans have interfered in the Centauri border war without permission. Human ships refuse to follow our fleet movement rules. Worst of all, humans solve problems in ways that make no sense to civilized beings. Around the chamber, other aliens nodded or made their version of agreeing sounds. The Kethzari representative, who looked like a giant lizard with too many arms, hissed his approval. The floating gas creatures from the nebula worlds pulsed bright colors that meant they were pleased. The Council has voted, the Chancellor sang on. Humans must leave all Galactic Council territory within 1 standard year. All human colonies must be abandoned. All human ships must return to your home system. If any human vessel is found in Council space after the deadline, it will be destroyed. Captain Lisa Wong stepped forward from behind Jake. She was the head of Earth's diplomatic team and had spent 20 years trying to build friendships with alien species. Chancellor, please listen, Lisa said in her calm diplomat voice. Humans have helped solve many galactic problems. We stopped the war on Rigel 7. We found the cure for the Red Death Plague. We built the trade routes that connect 40 star systems. The Chancellor's crystal body flashed angry red colors. You solved those problems by breaking our laws and ignoring our traditions. You act without asking permission. You make chaos wherever you go. We call it thinking outside the box, Jake said quietly. We call it dangerous, hissed the lizard alien. Humans are unpredictable. They cannot be controlled or understood. They must go. Lisa tried again. What about our colonies? 3 million. Humans live on worlds outside the Sol system. Some were born there, it's their only home. That is not our concern, sang the Chancellor. The decision is final and cannot be changed. Jake watched as alien guards moved closer to them. The meeting was over. There would be no more talking. On Earth, Admiral Carl Jackson sat in his office deep under the Colorado mountains. The message from the Galactic Council had just arrived. He read it 3 times to make sure he understood. Carl was old enough to remember when humans first met aliens. He had been a young pilot then, full of excitement about exploring the stars. Now he felt tired and angry. His assistant, Lieutenant Kevin Brown, knocked on the door. "Sir, we're getting calls from every human colony. They want to know what's happening." "Tell them we're coming to get them," Carl said. "All of them." "Sir, that's 37 worlds. Some have 500,000 people. We don't have enough ships." Carl stood up and walked to the big window that looked out over the military base. Thousands of people worked here every day, building ships and training crews. Most of them had never seen Earth's sky without knowing that humans lived among the stars. "Then, we'll build more ships," Carl said. "We'll convert cargo haulers, passenger liners, anything that can fly. Every human comes home." Kevin looked worried. "The aliens are probably listening to our communications. They'll know what we're planning." "Good," Carl said. "Let them listen. Let them see how humans take care of their own." Back on the space station, Jake and Lisa were escorted to their ship by alien guards. As they walked through the corridors, they could hear the council members already talking about who would get the abandoned human colonies. "The mining rights on Kepler 442 will be valuable," one alien said. "I want the agricultural worlds," said another. "Humans grew good crops there," Lisa shook her head. "They're talking about our homes like they're just empty houses." Jake pressed the button to open their ship's door. "Maybe that's their mistake. They think we'll just disappear quietly." Their ship was small but fast. As they flew away from the council station, Jake sent a coded message to Earth. It had only 3 words. "Pack everything, hurry." On the colony world of New Texas, Governor Bill Armstrong got the message while eating breakfast with his family. His wife Mary was reading the morning news on her tablet. Their 2 children were arguing about who got the last piece of toast. "Dad, you look worried," said his daughter Amy. Bill tried to smile. "Just work stuff, honey." But inside, he was thinking about the 1,000,000 people who lived on New Texas. They had built cities and farms and schools. They had made a life under an alien sun. Now they had to leave it all behind. His assistant called him on the emergency line. "Governor, ships are already heading our way from Earth. Admiral Jackson says we have 6 months to evacuate." 6 months. To move 1,000,000 people, Bill said. "Can it be done?" "If anyone can do it, humans can," his assistant replied. Bill looked out at the city his people had built. In the distance, human children played in parks while their parents went to work in tall buildings that reached toward the sky. Soon it would all be empty. But maybe empty was better than gone forever. At least his people would be alive. The galaxy had made its choice. Now humanity would make theirs. 5 years after the banishment, the galaxy was falling apart. Captain Ryan Mitchell stood on the bridge of his deep reconnaissance ship, the Pathfinder, reading reports that would have been unthinkable when humans still lived in council space. 40% of the major trade routes are now classified as too dangerous for civilian traffic, his communications officer, Lieutenant Jenny Walsh, reported. "Pirate activity has increased by 500% since we left." Ryan looked out at the stars beyond human territory. Somewhere out there, the galaxy that had rejected his species was dying a slow death. "What about the Stellar Confederation?" he asked. "Completely collapsed last month," Jenny replied. "The Great Plague of Xerion wiped out their core worlds before they figured out how to stop it." Ryan shook his head. Dr. Foster had sent them the cure 3 years ago, but the aliens had been too proud to use it until it was too late. Millions had died because of stubborn alien pride. "Sir, we're receiving a priority transmission from Admiral Jackson," Jenny announced. The Admiral's face appeared on the main screen. He looked older and more tired than Ryan remembered. "Ryan, I need your team to investigate the Void Hunter incursions," Admiral Jackson said. "We're getting reports of entire star systems going dark." "How bad is it, sir?" Bad. The Council's combined fleet has lost 12 major engagements. Their ships and tactics are completely useless against Void Hunter technology. Ryan felt a chill run down his spine. He had read the ancient records about the Void Hunters. They were not just enemies. They were the end of everything organic. What are your orders, sir? Observe and report. Do not engage. We need to understand what we're dealing with before we decide how to respond. The Pathfinder changed course toward the outer spiral, where the Void Hunters had been most active. As they traveled, Ryan's crew monitored galactic communications. What they heard painted a picture of civilization in complete collapse. On Haven, Prime, Dr. Amanda Foster was working around the clock to understand the threat facing the galaxy. Her medical expertise had expanded into studying the Void Hunters themselves. They're not just machines, she told her research team. They're a form of artificial life that feeds on organic matter. When they destroy a planet, they convert all living material into energy for themselves. Her assistant, Dr. Eric Johnson, looked sick. So they don't just kill civilizations, they eat them. Exactly. And they learn from every encounter. Each battle makes them stronger and smarter. Amanda pulled up images from the ancient records. The pictures showed worlds that had been stripped of all life, leaving behind nothing but bare rock and metal. The species that built the derelict station fought them for centuries, she continued. Even with technology more advanced than anything in the current galaxy, they could barely hold the Void Hunters back. What happened to them? Dr. Johnson asked. They disappeared. We think they might have found a way to escape to another galaxy or dimension, but they left warnings for anyone who came after them. Amanda highlighted a section of the ancient text. They said the only way to defeat the Void Hunters was to think in ways they couldn't predict, to use strategies that didn't follow logical patterns. Dr. Johnson laughed bitterly. Sounds like they needed humans. That's exactly what I was thinking, Amanda replied. Meanwhile, in the council chambers, panic was setting in. The Vorthan Chancellor stood before the assembled representatives, her crystal body flickering with colors that meant fear and desperation. The Void Hunters have taken the Rigel system, she announced. 6 billion beings lived there. Now there is nothing but empty space. Ambassador Kethavar's feathers were completely white, a sign of extreme stress in his species. Our fleets cannot stop them. Every ship we send is either destroyed or converted to serve the enemy. Converted? Asked the delegate from the methane. Worlds. The Void Hunters can reprogram our artificial intelligence systems, Kethavar explained. Our own ships turn against us. The Kethazari representative, General Vorthak, slammed his clawed hand on the table. Then we use older ships, vessels without advanced computers. We tried that, the Chancellor sang sadly. The Void Hunters simply destroyed them. Our primitive weapons cannot penetrate their shields. A new voice spoke from the back of the chamber. It belonged to Admiral Zethmore, the military commander of the Altarian Federation. There is one option we have not discussed, Admiral Zethmore said. The chamber fell silent. Everyone knew what he was going to say. We could ask the humans for help. The suggestion caused an immediate uproar. Aliens began shouting in dozens of languages. Some were angry, others were frightened, and a few sounded desperate enough to try anything. The Chancellor raised her hand for silence. The humans were banished for good reason. They are unpredictable and dangerous. More dangerous than extinction, Admiral Zethmore asked quietly. On his reconnaissance mission, Captain Ryan Mitchell was getting his first close look at Void Hunter activity. The Pathfinder hung in space at the edge of what used to be the Canopus system. Now it was just a debris field. Sensors are picking up residual energy patterns, reported his science officer, Commander Lisa Park. The Void Hunters were here less than a week ago. Any survivors? Ryan asked. Negative. Whatever they did, it was thorough. Ryan studied the tactical display. 5 planets, dozens of space stations, and millions of inhabitants had been reduced to scattered atoms. Sir, Lisa continued, I'm detecting something else. The debris field is organized in a pattern. What kind of pattern? It looks almost like a message, as if the Void Hunters are trying to communicate something. Ryan felt his blood turn cold. If the enemy was trying to send messages, it meant they were more intelligent than anyone had realized. "Record everything," he ordered. "We need to get this information back to Admiral Jackson." As the Pathfinder prepared to leave, Ryan took one last look at the destroyed system. Somewhere in that debris field were the remains of beings who had lived and loved and dreamed of better tomorrows. Now, they were nothing but raw material for an ancient hunger. Back in human space, Admiral Jackson was meeting with the Civilian Leadership Council. President Nicole Adams sat at the head of the table listening to reports from across the galaxy. "The situation is accelerating," Admiral Jackson reported. "At the current rate of expansion, the Void Hunters will reach the galactic core within 2 years. "What about the Council?" President Adams asked. "They're losing badly. Their conventional tactics and weapons are useless. Worse, the Void Hunters seem to be learning from each encounter. They're getting better at fighting galactic military forces." General Tony Hayes, the head of human military planning, spoke up. "Our new technology might give us an advantage. The dimensional fold drives, the adaptive shields, the quantum weapon systems." "Might," the president emphasized. "We don't know for sure." "Ma'am," Admiral Jackson said carefully, "we may soon have to make a choice. Do we let the galaxy burn, or do we risk human lives to save the species that banished us?" President Adams was quiet for a long moment. Everyone in the room knew that she had lost her brother in the evacuation from the colony world of New Montana. The aliens had given humans 1 year to leave, but they had made no effort to help with the evacuation. Many people had died because there weren't enough ships. "Keep monitoring the situation," she finally said. "If the Council asks for help, we'll consider it. But I won't sacrifice human lives for aliens who threw us away like garbage." The meeting ended, but Admiral Jackson stayed behind. "Nicole." "What?" "If they're too proud to ask," he said when they were alone. President Adams looked out the window at the human settlement below. Children played in parks while their parents worked to build a new civilization among alien stars. "Then the galaxy will learn what pride costs," she replied. But even as she spoke, both leaders knew that humanity's choice was already made. When the time came, humans would fight, not for the aliens who had rejected them, but because it was the right thing to do. The question was whether they would be strong enough to win. 7 years after the banishment, a strange ship appeared at the edge of human space. It was clearly of Council design, but it flew no flags and sent no identification signals. The human patrol ship Defender moved to intercept it. "Unknown vessel. You are entering restricted space," Captain Mike Rogers transmitted. "Identify yourself immediately." The reply came in perfect English, which was unusual for Council ships. "This is diplomatic vessel Harmony requesting permission to approach Haven Prime. We carry Ambassador Zethmore of the Vorthan Hegemony on an urgent mission." Captain Rogers was surprised. He knew that name. Ambassador Zethmore had been one of the few Council members who had spoken against the human banishment. "Stand by, Harmony. I'm contacting Planetary Command." Within hours, the alien ship was landing at Haven Prime's main spaceport. President Nicole Adams stood waiting with a full diplomatic guard. She had not expected to see aliens on human soil again. Ambassador Zethmore stepped out of the ship, and Nicole was struck by how different he looked. His crystal body, once bright and confident, was now dull and cracked with stress lines. Behind him came 2 other Council representatives she didn't recognize. "President Adams," Zethmore sang in his musical voice. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with us." "Ambassador," Nicole replied coolly. "This is unexpected. The last time we spoke, your Council was ordering us out of the galaxy." Zethmore's body flickered with colors that meant shame and regret. "Much has changed since then. The galaxy is dying, and we need your help." "Our help." Nicole's voice was sharp with old anger. 7 years ago, you called us dangerous and unpredictable. You said the galaxy would be better without us. We were wrong, Zethmore admitted. Terribly wrong. They moved to the secure conference room in the government building. Admiral Jackson and General Hayes joined the meeting, along with Senator Carter and Dr. Stone. "Tell us about the Void Hunters," Nicole said without introduction. "Zethmore's colors. shifted to deep blue, the Vorthan equivalent of despair. They have consumed 43 star systems. Hundreds of billions are dead. Our combined fleets cannot stop them. We know about your military failures, General Hayes said bluntly. Our reconnaissance ships have been watching. Then you know how desperate the situation has become, Zethmore replied. The Void Hunters learn from every battle. They adapt to our weapons, counter our tactics, and convert our own ships against us. Dr. Stone leaned forward. We've been studying your ancient records. The Void Hunters can only be defeated by tactics they cannot predict or understand. Chaotic strategies, Admiral Jackson added. The kind of unpredictable thinking that your council said made us dangerous. Zethmore's body pulsed with ironic colors. The very traits that made us fear you are now the galaxy's only hope for survival. President Adams sat back in her chair. What exactly are you asking for, Ambassador? Full human readmission to galactic society, restoration of all colonial rights, and military command of the combined anti-Void Hunter forces. The human leaders exchanged glances. It was more than they had dared hope for before the banishment. In exchange for what? Nicole asked. Saving the galaxy, Zethmore replied, simply. The negotiations took 3 days. The Council's terms were more generous than Nicole had expected. Humans would not just be readmitted to galactic society. They would have special status as defenders of the galaxy, with rights and privileges that no other species possessed. We want territorial sovereignty for all current human settlements, General Hayes demanded. No council interference in our internal affairs. Agreed, Zethmore sang. Full access to all council technology and databases, added Dr. Stone. Agreed. Veto power over any future council decisions involving humanity, Senator Carter said. Agreed. President. Adams made the final demand. And a formal apology for the banishment to be broadcast across the galaxy. Zethmore's colors flickered with what might have been embarrassment. That will be difficult for some council members to accept. Then the galaxy can burn without us, Nicole said coldly. Very well. Agreed. Within a week, human task forces were being deployed to critical systems across the galaxy. The ships that emerged from human space were unlike anything the Council had ever seen. Captain Jerry Collins commanded the lead vessel of the first human fleet to enter Council space in 7 years. His ship, the Retribution, was equipped with dimensional fold drives that let it appear anywhere in a star system within minutes. Council Fleet Command, this is Captain Collins of the Human Defense Force, Jerry transmitted as his ships dropped out of fold space near the besieged world of Altair Prime. We're here to help. The response came from Admiral Kethvar, the bird-like alien who had once supported humanity in the Council. Captain Collins, thank God you're here. The Void Hunters are attacking the orbital stations. Our ships can't get close enough to engage them. Jerry studied his tactical display. 12 massive Void Hunter vessels were systematically destroying the defenses around Altair Prime. Council ships hung back at safe distances, unable to penetrate the enemy's adaptive shields. All human vessels, this is Collins, Jerry transmitted to his fleet. Execute attack pattern Chaos 7. What followed would be studied in military academies for generations. The human ships didn't attack in formation or follow predictable assault patterns. Instead, they moved like a school of fish, each vessel making independent decisions based on constantly changing tactical situations. The Void Hunters, programmed to analyze and counter logical military strategies, couldn't adapt to the seemingly random human approach. When they adjusted their shields to stop one type of attack, human ships immediately switched to completely different weapons and tactics. Captain Sarah Blake, commanding the destroyer Vengeance, noticed that the Void Hunters were trying to predict her movement patterns. Computer, give me a course that makes no tactical sense, she ordered. Error. Request violates basic strategic principles. Her AI responded. Override safety protocols. I want to do something stupid. Her ship suddenly accelerated directly toward the largest Void Hunter vessel, then performed a series of seemingly random maneuvers that should have left her vulnerable to enemy fire. But the Void Hunters, expecting logical behavior, had positioned their weapons to intercept a rational attack pattern. Sarah's stupid approach caught them completely off guard. Her quantum torpedoes punched through their shields and destroyed the command ship. The battle for Altair Prime lasted 6 hours. When it ended, all 12 Void Hunter vessels had been destroyed with minimal human losses. It was the first major victory against the ancient enemy in 3 years. The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Humanity had returned, and they were winning. Over the following months, human fleets struck at Void Hunter forces throughout Council space. Each victory was achieved through tactics that made no sense to logical minds but proved devastatingly effective against an enemy that relied on predictable behavior. Dr. Amanda Foster, now serving as Chief Medical Officer for the Human Expeditionary Forces, made another crucial discovery. The Void Hunters aren't just machines, she reported to Admiral Jackson. They're artificial intelligences based on the thought patterns of their creators. They think like the ancient species that built them. What does that mean? The Admiral asked. It means they're limited by the logical processes of their creators. They can't truly understand chaos or unpredictability because their programming is based on ordered thinking. While humans are naturally chaotic, Admiral Jackson said with a smile. Exactly. We don't just think outside the box. We don't even know there is a box. The final battle came at the Galactic core, where the Void Hunters had established their main base of operations. The combined fleet that assembled there was the largest military force in galactic history, but everyone knew that humans would lead the assault. President Adams herself traveled to the command ship to observe the battle. She stood on the bridge next to Admiral Jackson as thousands of ships prepared for the attack that would determine the fate of all organic life. "Are you ready for this?" she asked the Admiral. Jackson looked out at the Void Hunter fortress, a massive structure that pulsed with dark energy, as ready as anyone can be to fight the impossible. The battle lasted 2 days. Human tactics that seemed like madness proved to be the key to victory. Ships commanded by humans did things that no sane military officer would attempt. They flew through asteroid fields at maximum speed, used gravity wells as slingshots, and attacked in patterns that changed every few minutes. The Void Hunters, for all their adaptive intelligence, simply could not cope with human unpredictability. They had been designed to fight logical opponents, not beings who would ram a battleship through a space station just to create a distraction. When the last Void Hunter ship exploded, the galaxy was finally safe. The victory celebration on Haven Prime lasted for 3 days. Representatives from every species in the galaxy came to thank humanity for their salvation. Ambassador Zethmore stood before the assembled crowd and made the formal apology that had been part of their agreement. 7 years ago, the Galactic Council made a terrible mistake, he sang in his beautiful voice. We feared humanity because you were different from us. We called your differences dangerous and chaotic. We were wrong.